theory of constraints. As you know, I'm a big fan of the theory of constraints, and today I'm joined by Liam, who'd like to share his TOC experience with us. Hi, Liam.
Yeah, hi, Michael, and hi to everyone who's listening. Thanks for having me on. So I'm normally behind the cameras when we do the podcast, so I hear every word that's said, and a lot of the time we're talking about these technical theories and different things that you can apply to manufacturing businesses and other fabrication lines to get the most efficient use. And one of them that we talk about a lot is theory of constraints. And I always question, because I can see it working here. I was like, okay, so really, can you apply it to other places? So that's exactly what I did.
Okay, I'll share us your experience.
Yeah. So my one of the things I hate at home is doing the washing.
Okay.
And it's because it's a bit of a headache task. In my house, we have 4 washing baskets, and we don't do the washing until every single one is full.
Okay.
So we end up with each washing basket can have between like 2.5 loads in. So you may be looking at 8 to 10 loads of washing that need to be done on one day, which is an accumulation of lots of washing. And this is probably a personal insight into my life, and everyone's probably thinking I'm disgusting. But
then how do you feel seeing all the baskets full?
It's become such a normal thing in my house that we just come to terms with it and we live with it. But the main thing is getting the washing done, getting it folded, getting it put away, and then having empty baskets at the start. Now, the 4 baskets that come downstairs get emptied, and then you have a massive pile. And what we then have is 4 empty baskets, 4 which were filled with dirty washing, and then we have 2 baskets that we use for additional washing. So you have 6 baskets that you can fill with washing loads to wash.
And how many are you?
There's only 2 of us, which is even worse. There's a lot of washing. But so I always have a headache because I always have this queue of baskets. I've got 1 washing machine, 1 dryer, and each one takes about an hour. But what you'll end up doing is you have 1 load goes into the washing machine, then it comes out, another one goes straight in, and then into the dryer. Drying normally takes about the same time, but if it ever takes longer, then it causes a backlog. And all the while, you still have all these queues of baskets lining up.
Okay.
And that's the main issue. So with theory of constraints, I was like, okay, so what's causing the issue? What's the bottleneck? And it's the fact that there are so many of these baskets being queued up ready to be washed when ultimately, as soon as the dry one comes out, if it's not folded and put away, which sometimes it's not, it's just sort of left as a clean basket, that's a basket that could be used for another load. So then we'll have 3 clean baskets and then dirty baskets, but none of it's being put away. So to try and limit this, what I did was I emptied out all the dirty washing baskets, put them back into their rooms accordingly, and then I only have the 2 baskets that I can use for washing. So I've limited myself. Now what I've done with that is then put dirty washing, so they are the only baskets that I'm allowed to use. So I did the washing, as you can imagine, and then taking it upstairs rather than leave it or take my time putting it away. I've had to put all of that away in order to use that basket to do another load. And it sounds ridiculous, but it was it made everything much quicker.
Okay,
and it actually worked.
Nice to hear, because what you're explaining is probably a virtual constraint. So physically you have more baskets, but you decided to pick 2 and treat that as a constraint. Okay, how about your partner? What does she make of it?
I tried explaining this to her, and she told me I was ridiculous. However, every time I've done the washing 4 or 5 times since I started using this rule, and it's worked, and it's fine. She's still using 6 baskets, so I'm trying to convince her to come across to the theory of constraint side and use this new way of doing things. But it's difficult to implement because we got so fixed in that pattern of using all 6 baskets means that we can do more washing, when the reality is it doesn't.
But then does it take a lot of self-discipline on your behalf to stick to those 2 baskets?
So with the 6 baskets, you have them all there. But having that sort of like little bit where you empty all the baskets, you have just 1 pile, and then put them all back into their rooms, so they essentially become out of bounds, or out of sight, out of mind, because that's probably the main thing that makes it easier to manage, is that the fact that they are away.
Yeah.
And mentally you're like, okay, well, I can't use them because they're not washing baskets. They're these baskets that you're now using are essentially for clean clothes, and you have dirty baskets and clean baskets. But yeah, I hope it's because I was trying to explain it to someone else, and I was like, this sounds crazy, but it works.
Yeah, that's the thing, and it's like with theory of constraints. It's all about simplifying things, and quite often it's counterintuitive.
Yeah.
Where you think that if you've got a bottleneck, you should increase capacity, whereas it's exactly the opposite. You should limit it. So yeah, it's interesting. Yeah. What made you think about using the theory of constraints in this situation?
For me, it was more proof of concept. So I've heard about it, and even in marketing here at Steelo, I've started reading a bit more about all of these processes and theories to get a better idea of how we can communicate that to other people. And I guess the best way to understand and be able to communicate it is to actually do it yourself.
Yeah.
Because of course we do it here at Steelo, and I can see that we do it, but I'm not hands-on with production, understanding how this process is being used. So I need to find other ways that I can do it and apply it to life, so that I understand.
Did you first have in your mind that you have to try it out somewhere, and you were like on the search of finding a place where you could use it, or it just naturally sprung to your head like, oh, I could use it here?
Yeah, it was almost like exactly that. It was like, oh, this is perfect, because it's a series of like individual events that all tie together to make a process. And I was like, okay, so this is the washing. Okay, washing needs to be done. You need to get the washing the whole way through this production line in order to get clean washing out the other end. And then the packing or logistics side is folding it, putting it away. So then you sort of like work your way back from each step and go, okay, right, this is where there's an issue.
Yeah.
And for me it was, I don't know, I want to call it like a laying in bed, sort of like pulling my hair out, like how's the washing this painful? Like, I'm an adult, I should be able to do this. But and then understanding about sort of like what we talk on here and what we talk about in the business, it's like, okay, I'll try that and see if it works.
Yeah.
And
okay, well, I'm super satisfied, because obviously that just feels that it's not just a theory that, like you said, can be used in production, but actually you can use it in real life. But then, having said that, for some reason we sort of isolate production as if production is not related to everyday life, whereas when you think about it, production is just starting in one place with something and ending up in a different, and just following set process. So I always say, even like a solicitor's place, that's also a production line. They start with a phone call or email inquiry. They then have to do a specific amount of task and end up with a document, and that's also a production line.
Yeah, it is that starting with an object or starting with a material, and then getting to somewhere where it's either changed, or in this case it's the same, it's just gone from dirty to clean. But it's like, having that full process and understanding it. And for me as well, it allows me to go, so without impeding anything else within my day, I can still do them 10 loads of washing in 10 sounds a bit daunting, but 10 loads of washing in a controlled manner.
The kind of business you offer to, service you offer to your neighbours, like washing up.
It is ridiculous, but two.
Because we only have 2 baskets, and there are 4 of us. Honestly.
Well, we've got, you've got your bathroom basket, your bedroom basket. We've got like it's kind of like a dog basket as well for the dogs. So stuff gets chucked in there, and then we've got just a random basket lying around. So everything just gets thrown. We did try his and hers baskets, but then if you're doing washing, you might as well do it all.
Yeah, but us men, we just drop things where we are. So we had the same, but then I started doing both, just because like I won't be relocating only to throw my stuff into my basket. So
well, I've been given a halfway basket now, so that's where they're too clean to be washed, but not dirty. They're not dirty enough to be washed, but too dirty to be put into the cupboard. So
exactly.
So now we've got 5 baskets.
Are there any other areas that you were sort of considering of implementing theory of constraints?
I tried to do it with the dogs, because I've got 2 dogs, and there's like little things like them, like walking, being prepared to like go out and all the processes. But for that, it's a lot more of a linear process of sort of like pick up the lead, pick up the car keys, pick up the lead, pick up this, and then that then processes don't work in the same way as like leaving to go out. Packing to go, because when we go on holidays and stuff, it's kind of the same. You need to finish up with your packed car essentially. So experimenting with it there, but we haven't been away too much this year. So next time I will, and I'm trying to find other ways to do it.
Well, then maybe I could share some of my experiences, because I obviously read a lot, but before I tried at work in production, I try it in my own personal life. And I remember the game changer for me was washing up the dishes. Because the way I used to cook was I first did the meal and then worried about the washing up later on. And I remember it was always like, oh my God, there's so many dishes to wash up, and then you leave it for later, it all dries up, and then you leave it for the following day, and then once you've got a pile, you just add more because you can't see the more dishes you start adding. And then I came across it was the relay runner rule, which as you know, it's first finish with one thing before you jump into the next one. So I remember literally the same evening or so I was preparing a meal, and I thought, okay, the rule I'm going to try out is not letting go of a pan, or frying pan, whatever it was, until it's washed, instead of just building this whole pile of dishes. And I was impressed. It's like, wow, it was the first time I actually prepared a dish, and the kitchen was almost as clean as when I started. And it was so much easier, so much nicer, so much sort of even pleasant to enjoy the meal, because you know that there isn't a pile of washing up waiting for you. So that was definitely a game changer for me. And the second one, which is actually also to do with the theory of constraints, is one day I was appointed as the person in charge to clear up my daughter's room, and I was told it's a mess. So I took my daughters up with me, and when I walked up to the room, I was like, oh my God, it is a mess. It was as if, hand grenades gone off there. And I didn't know where to start. And then I thought, okay, theory of constraints. What would the theory of constraints say? And it's all about taking small steps. So I took a scarf or whatever it was, and I marked a very small area in one of the corner, like 1 meter by 1 meter. And I said, girls, let's just clear this up. Nothing else. Let's just leave that mess, just focus on this. And then we started picking things. It was like maybe 20 items in that area. And suddenly you could see this patch of carpet that is clean. You could actually see the carpet rather than just
toys everywhere.
And they got excited. I was like, wow. And then I just kept moving the scarf into a different location, and they were over the moon. They were really excited about clearing it up. So that was my claim of fame in terms of theory of constraints and actually kids getting involved as well.
It's quite interesting, sort of like splitting it all up into departments, like section A, section B, section C, and working your way through it. It's taking those like smaller, more manageable tasks, or one big task is always able to split into smaller, manageable ones.
I mean, one could argue whether that is the theory of constraints, because the theory of constraints is quite broad actually when you actually read, because obviously there's this saying, you eat an elephant just bit by bit, or you clear a garage not by clearing out the garage, just start with one shelf or box and so on. So these kind of methodologies are known, but I just put it all under theory of constraints, probably more for convenience than anything. But the theory is predominantly about simplifying stuff.
Yeah, it is interesting. Maybe I'll try that. Definitely my garage is on the list of things that need to be tidied. So I'll
one bit at a time.
One bit at a time.
A day. Plus, you could reward yourself. That's another good thing. I've learned it's a totally different environment, but just like, I don't know, if you like, I don't know, sausages or even a pack of crisps or something, have it ready waiting for you, but only give it to yourself once you've cleared out one thing, and then something to look forward to. So.
My house would be spotless. I'd also be double the size I am. It would be spotless.
I think go for healthy bites. I don't know, a strawberry as a reward.
Well, this would be the next thing. But Victoria, I've tidied up this, but Michael said I can reward myself, so I've got a 12-pack of donuts. Thank you so much.
I didn't say 12 donuts. I just said a quarter of a donut.
Yeah, one bite per task.
Bite. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But no, it has been interesting, and being able to understand these concepts a little bit better through actually applying them to, at the moment, day-to-day life. But maybe I'll start applying them in work, and I'll boost my performance here as well.
I was going to ask actually, at work, are there any areas that you've identified or where you've introduced the theory of constraints?
Yeah, so I've started to. So I am sort of like a serial dovetailer. There's always sort of like tasks that are overlapping and overflowing. Some of it is due to different deadlines and the way that I manage my time. It will be an hour here, an hour there, because these two tasks need to be finished at more or less the same deadline. But towards that, I've just started doing a lot more sort of relay runner as you with your saucepans. It's complete this task, get it done, sign it off. And I work more with Mac now, and Mac's great because you can, even on your files and icons, you can tag them a color. So next to the file name, it will have red, green, yellow, depending on what stage in that process is. Well, red, yellow, green. So that way, it's a real nice way to structure the filing on there, and also a tracker to myself. So if I am on a task towards the end of the day, if I don't finish it in that day, I tag it yellow, and I know it's the first thing that I'll do the next morning. And it means that some of the longer tasks are easily managed, or they are completed in their entirety rather than finishing them on
that actually is in line with something called a project Kanban, because a Kanban is obviously a placard that tells you you're running low on something and it needs replenishing, whereas a project Kanban is basically just columns, and one column says in progress. And here you should apply exactly what the theory of constraints is, so the virtual constraint as you've done with your baskets. And then have a list of to do, and they wait until this space in progress. And then something I've learned myself, and it's quite useful actually, is to have also a column for the projects called one day maybe. So something you'd like to do, but they sort of sit in your head. But by doing so, by writing it down, you're actually downloading it from your mind, so it's not sticking there. It's something that every now and then just knocks on your head and says, "Hey, do you remember about this idea?" So I found it actually very useful to download those kind of projects or ideas. Again, it's another example where various methodologies overlap, but then there's always space for the theory of constraints.
And it has made, especially sort of like the removal of dovetailing and just sort of like completing and doing any project as and when I need. It just means that when it comes to prioritizing as well, if something does come in when it's a priority, I know that I can leave them or transfer them into this sort of like yellow zone, even though it's sort of 1-2 tasks at most at a time. You can transfer them along to do the priority, and then you know exactly where to pick them up because you haven't got 10 other tasks that you're halfway through. But it's made things a lot easier, and just transferring knowledge across to other people as well. So if I'm working on a project and they want to know how long it's going to be, I know that this project will take me another hour, 2 hours, 20 minutes, however long it will be, because I know that that's the sole thing I'm working on. And when I'm finished that, I can come and help you, I can come and talk to you, because that task is complete, rather than saving it, closing it, walking away, forgetting about it, and then 2 days later going, oh, actually, I need to finish that.
And what if, like today, I come in and ask to have a video edited? How does that impede your plan?
I think when the MD comes and asks you to do something, everything else gets pushed aside anyway. But no, those tasks, being able to give an accurate amount of time as to how long it's going to be. I think I always tell people that it's going to be 5 minutes, but it might be a 2-hour task, but I normally always, it'll take 5 minutes, it'll be fine. Whereas those, I think even this morning I said to you, like, that'll be like 20 minutes, half an hour. So it will be being able to manage time more realistically as well, rather than just giving a random number and then.
Yeah, and that's also a big part of the theory of constraints, because actually the whole idea of the TOC comes from how unpredictable the world is, and the fact that so many things change, there's so many variables that you can't plan every single thing and every single possibility or scenario. Therefore, you should have a lot of flexibility built into any project. So
definitely in marketing as a whole, and what I guess we do here as a whole, there's always space for flexibility, because with structural steel, things change. clients call up last minute, or we may need to adjust designs. So there's always flexibility in that sense. And even if we need to prioritize something, take something off, push it lower down the priority scale, there's always movement there.
Yeah. So you said that you've listened to obviously our recordings, but also that you've done some reading. So what kind of reading? Was it just online, or bits like going right to the source, like to the books?
Yeah. So I haven't read The Goal yet. But it's on the list. That's the other thing. I need to I've got four books that I need to finish reading.
So you've got something.
So I've got a queue forming, and finishing all my yellow books from last year as well, because I had a habit of picking them up and dropping them like they were nothing. So I've got a few to finish, and I do want to finish them before I start moving on. But what I've been doing is so one website that has everything is just leanmanufacturing.org.
Okay.
And it has absolutely everything to do with lean manufacturing, including quite a lot on theory of constraints and lean manufacturing. So you've got 5S and everything on there, and that's been a tool and an aid for me when I'm writing about these subjects, because that's what we want to promote here at Steelo, because we are true believers in this. So I need to be fully understanding of all the details, because I can tell you how we do it, but I can't tell you why we do it or the reasoning behind. So it's I've been spending a lot of time on there, understanding these concepts and theories and pushing them through. But it's leanmanufacturing.org or theleanmanufacturing.org.
I'm surprised that they talk a lot about the theory of constraints, because they are perceived as two almost like opposing methodologies. And actually Goldratt, the founder of the theory of constraints, he actually picks on lean manufacturing, just shows the weak points, obviously for bespoke manufacturing and then for when you're dealing with a lot of variables. Because lean manufacturing works great in an environment where you're doing 20,000 of exactly the same cars or whatever it is. But then on the other hand, Goldratt also says that lean should be used in the constraint. So that is where you should really sort of make it as efficient as possible.
Yeah, because there's a definitive overlap between the theory of constraint and lean manufacturing, because there's one section about non-value add maneuvers or processes within the whole chain. And that's something that I apply onto the washing. It's having 6 baskets sat there waiting is exactly spoke about in lean, where it is your product or your item storage. So I've got all of these items sat there ready to go, but they're pointless to me sat there doing nothing. So it's better to have just the 2 items being processed rather than 6 of them waiting. There's a story that you tell about the helicopters as well, and that's sort of part of the reasoning behind. It's I've got 10 loads, and just focus on 2, get them done, then move on to the next one.
Yeah. But then I think the most important conclusion from all these different methodologies comes from a guy I met a few years ago. He's got a company employs 1,000 people, and he said that you should pick and match pick and mix different methodologies and just choose which one works in this given scenario, rather than just sticking with one and saying that this is the only solution, this is the best one and only way of dealing with things. And unfortunately that is the case with all these coaches that come from, let's say, lean manufacturing. They'll just convince you that lean is the only way forward, and every gram of powder that you've used more for your washing is wasted money, and they'll multiply it by the amount of washing you've done, and then just make you feel guilty. Then you have 6 Sigma specialists with all the belts, because they actually follow a karate system. Someone on a brown belt tells you the only way forward is 6 Sigma and so on. But and I 100% agree with it. It's all about picking the different methodologies and just which one works.
Yeah, there are different processes within everything that works for different scenarios. Again, some of it's from lean manufacturing theory of constraints for washing, but 5S might not apply so much. Of course, it's keeping it clean, but still.
Try doing 5S in your kitchen, your wife will kick you out. I've done that.
Well, I'll raise that next time.
Try drawing lines in drawers and say that this is where this says. Shadow boards.
But it's all taping on the walls.
We'll sleep with the dogs.
But it is just pick and choosing what not pick and choosing what works, but definitely finding the issue and or the bottleneck or the constraint or whatever it may be, and then finding the solution that works for it. And in my situation, the theory of contract works perfectly for it, and it's something that is working for me now. And I've no doubt that in my continued reading, I'll find something else, and I'll be like, oh, that's why I can't wake up at 5 a.m. every day, and then I'll apply that onto my life and do something different.
I guess that's a subject for a different podcast.
Definitely.
But yeah, thank you very much for joining. Always a delight talking. You should be spending more time in front of the camera rather than in the back.
Yeah, it is really nice.
And for everyone, please remember to subscribe to our podcast just so you don't miss out on any future episodes. Thank you, Liam.
Thanks so much.